Good morning. How are you? Just one sec. I'm still fucking around a bit. Okay. Hopefully we're good. Whoa! It's been quite the week, huh? It's been quite the year. It's been quite the decade. We're watching everything go a bit fucking batshit. Thankfully, I'm here. There's a reasonable, rational voice. Up against. I noticed that Jimmy Dore and Tim Pool are streaming. So, you know, why would you look at them? Why would you look at them? You come to me for the calm. And being told to fuck off. Naturally. So, where do we begin? All right, let me just get comfortable first. It's going to be a fucking ride, isn't it? But my job is to calm you down a little bit. But also freak you out because, you know, there's some things that are a bit freaky. But we're going to do calm your twits today because calm your twits, distinct from, say, Digipolitik or, say, like a reaction video or like a big, you know, the good thing about having segments, right, is also the ability to go, okay, what do I want to do with this thing? Where does it fit? Even though they overlap, I think sometimes the segment can fit the tone. Now, it started as, you know, Jerkin Merkins, making fun of America being crazy. But what I thought was, fuck it. Let's do something a bit more empathetic. Like, you know, I think most of the world outside of America, again, we're talking about America the country, not America the people. what we're seeing unfold is something that I think is not terribly surprising to anybody who pays attention. And there is a little bit of schadenfreude with all of this, and I think I'm enjoying it a little bit too, watching them implode, but also being afraid for the fact that they'll probably take us all with them for a start. And I just feel sadness at the idea that their leaders have abandoned them, right? And it just feels very much like a war on the people, right? And I've got to be very careful with the things that I say here. I'm trying to cut through the outrage and just talk about the issues. One thing I want to talk a lot about is lenses and how different perspectives and different frameworks can often lead you to different conclusions, and why it's important when you are sort of giving a specific sort of warming up. You know what it's like. Takes me a few minutes. Don't dive in yet, Taya. Have some water. Have some coffee. Fucking calm down. For those that are new to the new format, I talk for about 2 hours and then turn it into clips. If you don't like my rambling or like verbal tics or words, it'll be edited and, you know, best of both worlds. If you like seeing this and you find me endearing, then, you know, watch the stream. Now, so, one sec. Is the chat working? Yeah. I don't know if the chat's working. Should be okay. Fucking around with tech all day. No, but what I wanted to do is actually just more appeal to people's, I think more than ever, people need to just get level heads. First up, fucking level head. Calm the fuck down. Okay? Now, second of all, spend less time on social media. Okay? Third of all, critical thinking, media studies, understand what you're actually dealing with. Critical thinking skills. Urgently. Okay, now I don't know what the other guys are doing. They're probably in outrage. They probably rallied all their fucking people and they're all getting all the super chats and they're all making bank by yelling and screaming at their fucking echo chambers. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is work through what I think is somewhere, not again, fucking not centrist, somewhere that's sort of level-headed and where it might go. The thing is, there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what's going on. You can assume good faith. You can assume bad faith. It depends on the lens that you use. And I don't want to be one of those people that just takes this narrow slice and runs with it and, you know, inadvertently creates a cult, because that's what I'm saying that has happened, and I don't want my own cult. I want people who are rational and reasonable and polite and fucking understand boundaries and who have some empathy for the other side and who are capable. I'm sick of warring tribes. I'm sick of it. I'm putting my sword down. I don't care. I'm just going to start addressing behaviour and thinking. Now, you can address behaviour and still call people fuckwits. That's my prerogative. Okay? That's called engaging language, all right? Persuasive language. No one's perfect, and when I talk about behaviours and conduct, I don't mean language, and I don't mean words, and I do not mean having a joke. So calm down. What I'm seeing here is the doubling down everywhere. Doubling down on a narrative, which is on one side. I'll tell you, I'm just warming up. I'll tease it. I'll say things a few times. This is just while I wait for a few people to show up. But, so, does anyone not know what happened? That's the question. Does anyone in my audience not know what happened this week in the world of Twitter? If you don't know what happened, Twitter finally said, enough. We're banning Donald Trump for inciting the mob / protesters, depending on which perspective you listen to. I listen to all perspectives, and I'm going to sort of summarize some of them. Maybe we can get to solutions if we fucking talk it through. Calm your twits. I need the screen up in a minute, but I'll do that. But the segment's right. Anyway, this is just a warm up few minutes, as you know. While I clear my voice and get the cock out of my throat, all that stuff. But basically, shit's going down and everyone's got a fucking take, including me. I have concerns. I've fucking extreme concerns about what's going on. And, yeah. Anyway, let's put the calm your twits fucking thing on and then whatever. Let's do this. Don't you love it? Don't we love live? Isn't live awesome? Fucking idiot, Taya. Anyway, that's live. So, what happened? I don't know where you've been. If you don't know what happened, where have you been for a start? I think pretty much everyone knows about this. But I'm going to summarise for those who aren't familiar. Basically, during the inauguration, well, not the inauguration, the confirmation of Joe Biden, a bunch of Trump supporters basically turned up to Capitol Hill. Their version of events is that they were there to protest. The other version of events is that they were there to start some shit and, like, you know, raid the Capitol. Others... But yeah, and Donald Trump basically incited a bunch of shit, right? Now, whether it's incitement or not, that's a debate, okay? It's a debate to be had. I summarised it well, didn't I? Fucking whatever. All right. Basically, Twitter said, because I actually think that a lot of these details are inconsequential to my main point. That's part of the reason why I'm skimming over it. I'm not a news channel, I'm not a journalist. I'm a commentator. I'm getting to the bigger picture stuff. So if I'm glossing over it, I can give you a link like off the chat. Or if someone's on the chat, feel free to explain what happened in words. But I'm going to move on because I'm summarizing and everyone knows what happened and everyone's got a fucking take on it and everyone's just sort of drilling down on the fucking he said, she said, he started it, they started it. And I'm here to be mum and go, I don't care who fucking started it. Behave. There's bigger shit going on right now. The house is burning down. Okay? That's my angle. So that's part of the reason why I'm skimming it. So basically, subsequent to that sort of storming of Capitol Hill and all that drama, Twitter, in its wisdom, decided to suspend Donald Trump for 12 hours. And then Facebook gave him a permanent ban. Twitter then gave a permanent ban. Instagram, ban. Seeing a picture, YouTube, ban. Basically, just this constant thing. All these bans. Basically, the internet got the internet got kind of peaceful for a little while, but now it's kind of gotten a bit weird and strange and crazy. I'm not on form today. I need a bit more warm-up time. Everything's just a bit fucking stupid. This is the thing. I don't know whether it's even worth fucking doing this stream, because this is my frustration. And I know I was joking about sort of Tim Pool and Jimmy Dore and whoever they're the two I watch. I don't watch any of the other outrage, like Carl Benjamin, all of these outrage people. They're on there making their fucking money, feeding the beast. And people like me who actually are experts in the field, right? People who are actually experts at diagnosing some of these problems with a level head. And yes, I do have a fucking level head. I'm a smart ass and I tell jokes, but I'm level headed. And I'm ultimately, when shit gets real, fucking calm me comes out. And unfortunately, as is the nature of social media, it's fucking tribal as fuck. And people are just giving money to fucking, excuse me, let's start again. Connie's here. Wagwan Taya. I don't know what Wagwan means. What is it? I think maybe I need to riff for a little bit. Start over. This is why I take the pressure off on these streams, because sometimes it just doesn't come out right and I need a minute. And then I start to talk and then I can edit a clip. Have a coffee. Nice almond milk coffee. I'm sure someone will have an issue with fucking almond milk because it kills bees. Or if I say that this is where we're at. Fucking annoying. But it's also linked to my where I'm going to go with the point, right? Which is that this whole fucking thing, this whole machine, you're all falling for it. You're all falling for all of it. You're being dumb, being silly. I hang on to Daddy's willy. Remember that? I'm not dumb. I'm not silly. I hang on to Daddy's willy. Remember that? No? That was the thing in primary school. All right, let's start over. So basically, Trump banned from Twitter, mass ban. Now, as I've said, if you've watched previous videos, it's never about the person who's banned at the top. It's always about the fucking fallout underneath. Seems to me that Twitter, they're kind of damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, okay? Because what we're seeing is basically fucking Chomsky being right, first of all, Marx being right, second of all, and it's just almost like, it was almost like this was predictable. It's almost like this was predictable and it was coming home to roost. And that's the thing, is that it's very hard not to gloat right now, because I've been talking about some of this stuff for a while, even if a bit shit and disorganized and fucking, off on tangents, it's buried in there. Which is that what we're seeing is that the internet is a failed experiment, right? The scaffolding that built the internet, right? The ideals. There's the ideals of the internet, and then there is how it was corrupted by marketing. And I'm going to talk about marketing and user experience and commercial forces and corporate America. That's the main sort of focus of what I'm talking about. And then I might give you a few little skills, a few little things to do when you're reading things, to say, okay, well, this is how this works from this point of view. But I'm going to jump through a few different lenses, and what we're going to say, we're maybe going to explore the argument through a few different lenses. I'm not an academic. This is going to be fun. I'm going to TLDR. I'm going to swear. I'm going to say fucking yeah, cunt, because that's how we learn. Okay. If you don't like it, go to fucking anyone else. Okay. But I'm just saying these are my thoughts. And they might wonder. Extra ADD today, because there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit that I want to say, and it might come out a bit disorganized, but eventually I'll get to the point. So I did a video, I did a live stream on Saturday, which is unusual for me because I really felt like I had to say something about the big tech power, and that people need to calm down and start remembering their history and start remembering what we're dealing with and not celebrating this. Trump's a fuckwit. We celebrate that. Down with the fuckwit. Down with fuckwits in general. Okay. But a tech company, or in this instance, every tech company, right, has the power to collude. This is why there's a benefit in shifting your perspective and looking at things through a different definition and a different lens. This is what judges do. This is what the legal system is good at, is seeing the arguments through different lenses and trying to come to some sort of common ground. We need to get back there. And with this issue, we most certainly do. We need to stop squabbling over dumb shit and see what's actually happening here. All right. First of all, I think that we're in the very end stage capitalism. I tweeted last night, actually. I said, am I the only person here who thinks that America as it stands today may just be something that's a relic of the past, like Soviet Russia or Rome? Are we watching the fall of an empire? A lot of the signs are there. We're also seeing a lot of the signs of, I don't want to say it, but the early hesitating, because I don't know. See, this is the thing. This pisses me off that I'm just worried and scared. I shouldn't be scared to speak something that I think it comes from, first of all, an informed place. Second of all, a compassionate place, trying to just work through problems. I may misspeak. I may fucking say the wrong thing. I may swear, but we might get somewhere. If you just let me do the fucking, this thing is house's tennis ball. I don't know where my brain's going to go, but we might get there, right? But I'm so afraid of even mentioning certain words on YouTube or these platforms that they have the power to then delete me completely. Right? And you think that that's hyperbolic? Look at what's happening to Trump. Now, I hate that fuck. Stop making me defend him. Stop making me defend him. I hate it. He's a fuckwit. I resent the fact that I have to be fucking defending Trump at this point. For the next 2 weeks, the sitting president of the United States. People forget that shit. Now, I understand from a security point of view. Okay. Let's talk about the security angle on this, which is that there was an imminent threat. There's some awful shit being said, very violent rhetoric, and people were organising and they stormed the Capitol. Okay. That's true. That is a fact. That's not a matter of opinion. I've seen some of the content that led to the ban, and I think that if it was an isolated incident and it was only Trump and it was only violence, then it would be okay. All right. Just like with Parler, if this was just a request that they deal with the most egregious content on their platform, which did include extremely sick, violent fucking shit, then I believe that there is, I think that we also need to make sure that when companies act swiftly in a crisis, that they're not going to be perfect. Like we've learned that this year. We've learned that this year. That's not this year. In 2020, we learned this, right? Which is that no government is equipped for sort of emergency or immediate, and no one's going to be happy with the decisions that you make. Now, the most charitable point of view is one of security and imminent threat, which is that Facebook and Twitter and all of those places are just, there's an imminent threat. And they've come under heat for various, live streamed violent things, terrorist attacks, all those sorts of things in the past. They're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't. So the charitable view on this is one of that, which is that they're doing the best they can, okay? But a lot of people doing the best they can still absolutely make you do evil things. And I think that that's what we need to talk about is unintended consequences, but they're not, they might just be. I don't think that we're necessarily, we don't have a problem. We just have a predicament. I do believe that we just are we find ourselves, I think anybody with a brain in their head, first of all, is calling for fucking peace and quiet and to turn off social media and get your head back. I think anybody who doesn't feel the need to say that right now, turn them off. Anybody who's stoking the flames and escalating things, again, aside from jokes are off fucking, the jokes are allowed. Okay? But aside from, people that are sort of exacerbating and pouring fuel on things, and yes, the bots are back, and yes, they're trying their luck. Right? You think the fucking Chinese aren't trying shit and the Russians aren't trying shit and they're not stoking this fucking downfall? You're naive. All right? That said, if you think that it's all Nazis and the alt-right that are doing all of this revolting stuff, then you're also an idiot. You're also an idiot and you're also not a very good person. Like this morning I woke up and I said, and I just was like, the last line of Animal Farm. Remember the last line of Animal Farm? I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was basically, and they looked at the pigs, and they looked at the humans, and then they looked at the pigs again, and it turned out that they were indistinguishable from each other. Now, if you're not familiar with Animal Farm, George Orwell, where the fuck have you been? So first of all, and second of all, basically, that means don't become the monster that you are fighting. The pigs, if you don't know Animal Farm, the pigs overthrew the human in order to be, so they overthrew the farmer. It's an allegory, right, for revolution and what happens. Pigs overthrow the farmer, take charge, and then they have that creep into authoritarianism. They start demonizing the enemies and all of those sorts of things and creating propaganda and myth, and they just gradually creep and gaslight all of the sheep. That's the metaphor. Read the fucking book. That was badly done. Shut up. Okay. So I will address chats, but just not yet because I'm just trying. Today I'm having a particularly ADD day. So I will try. We'll talk about it in a minute. I want to work through these thoughts if I can. But what we're seeing is, first of all, see, I lost my fucking train of thought there. What was I fucking talking about? I need chats to help keep me on track. Remind me what I was talking about. Didn't finish. That's what you can do. You can remind me what I was saying so I can get back on point. Animal Farm. And I just started, what I'm seeing right now is an awful lot of people who claim to be the good guys who are being very, very bad, awful people. Now, the reason why I think I think you can feel my anxiety while I'm speaking because I'm scared of using certain words because they might be flagged. That's one thing, right? By the algorithm. And so, but what I really want to talk about is the danger and people knowing really just people being aware of what they're actually supporting underneath. Like we've seen this with the gender movement, right? Yeah. The pigs overthrew the farmer. So in Animal Farm, pigs overthrew the farmer. They formed, that's an allegory for revolution. And then the pigs eventually became authoritarians and all that sort of stuff. It's a fucking children's book. Takes half a day, audio book, fucking do it. It's worth it. Welcome to the George Orwell summarized badly channel. Yeah, well, when you actually present yourself as a comedian or as somebody who jokes, then there is an expectation that you're just going to fucking shut the fuck up and stop joke policing people. Okay? I am actually tired of full-time activists. I'm tired of, like, I am so fucking fatigued. Okay? I'm going to go, Shannon. I'm sorry. I'm just going to, it's not you. I'm not picking on you. I needed a launch pad to get my other, let's move on to this thing like we do. And then I'll come back to the other thing because I think my brain is still just sort of doing a funnel. So let's go in this tangent, shall we? If you have one thing that you're constantly fucking thinking about all of the time, one issue, I'm going to talk about the Cadbury fucking egg. It's not healthy. And it will come back to the perspective. It is just a joke sometimes. Sometimes it's just a joke. Okay, and this is the thing, like with the fucking Cadbury cream egg ad. Okay, now for those who don't know about that one, I was going to leave that off because I wanted to do a slightly more serious thing, but let's talk about that. I've been in like marketing, advertising, worked in agencies, all that stuff. It's just fucking creative. Chocolate has been equated with sex for fucking 100 years. All right, and feminists get fucking up in arms about it all the time, and you sound like Christians. You sound like exactly like conservative Christians, and that, I'm sorry, but that fucking feedback is 100% on point. Because there are times, I've said this before, there are times when you just sound like fucking prudes. Just sound like fucking I sit there and it's like, can we play Radfem or Helen Lovejoy? Like, fuck me. I got into this, and again, it's not about the individuals. I'm just, riffing on the argument, right? Okay, let's have some fun. Fucking Cadbury cream egg ad. If people aren't familiar with it, it was basically two gay men having a pash with a cream egg in their mouth. And everyone's up in arms going, it's like, fuck it. What? So I love it. Subversive. Chocolate has been equated in advertising with sex since the beginning. Not because of misogyny. Because the look of chocolate and the taste of chocolate and the experience of eating chocolate gives you the same rush of hormones as sex. So that fucking, it's subversive and creative way of getting around fucking ad standards. Also, the only bad advertising is advertising that no one talks about. Quote me. By getting upset about it and talking about it, you make the ad more successful. They will win a Canley On fucking award, okay? That said, I need to give feminists this feedback, which is that your sexual baggage is not the problem of other people. I'm going to talk about Grease for a minute, and it is related. When I was a kid, my fucking favourite movie was Grease 2. I was always 45 degrees from the middle, right? Always the fucking taker. Most people, I loved Grease as well. Grease as well, and Grease 2, okay? I was 10 years old watching Grease and Grease 2. Fucking loved that. Sung all the songs. Wore all the clothes. Fucking watched it on repeat. Watched it on repeat. I was obsessed with the fucking thing. Okay? I didn't watch it until, and it was only when I kind of, I went over, I was obsessed with it as a kid. Grease 2, fucking on repeat. Okay? Then it came on the TV when I was about 22 years old. I know my daughter was a baby, so it was about that. And my fucking face dropped to the floor because you know that scene with Rizzo and Kaniki where they're like in the car and he's like, oh, it broke. And I'm like, what broke? I don't understand what broke. That was me at 10. What broke? Oh, it must have been his fucking money or something. His wallet broke. I don't fucking know because it wasn't within my realm of imagination. Okay? I didn't know about that shit because I was a kid. And it's the same thing. And then I watch Grease and they're like, oh, all these sexual references and Rizzo being a slut. And I was like, I just liked the songs. I watched that thing. If anyone was going to be fucking turned into a condom breaking, Ferris wheel riding, fucking, you know, way too inappropriate fucking tight clothes changing for a man, woman, it would have been me, because I fucking watched that thing 100,000 times and it didn't do anything. I just watched it because I like the fucking songs. So it is related to the Cadbury cream egg, because one of the arguments I saw on Twitter from fucking feminists, right? And again, I love you feminists. I am one. There's no one feminism. But they were like, I don't like porn that's going to children. And I was like, well, hang on. It's not marketed to children, clearly. First of all, there's ad standards around advertising to children. I don't know about the UK, but in Australia, you can't advertise junk food to children during the day or during those hours, okay? There's laws around those things. They wouldn't be allowed to put it on children. Now, online is a different matter, okay? But YouTube have that, YouTube have that shit in place as well. Okay, it's an issue of policy and law. Second of all, as someone who was in that fucking industry, right? It's subversive creative that plays on fucking the idea of sex and chocolate and misogyny and fucking all of that stuff. It's great creative. It's wonderful, and I thought it was wonderful. And then someone turned around and said, oh, it's like this. This was so disgusting. I don't even want to say it, but it's like, oh, gay men kissing and like the cream egg is oozing and it's got chocolate. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And that's where Greece comes in. Like, you don't even think it until someone imposes their fucking shit on you. Like, you don't even think, so to speak, but you don't even think about it. And yes, it is important to have these conversations, okay? Yes, but if it's your whole fucking life and existence, you're obsessed and you're not well. If you see every single thing through the lens of fucking patriarchy without jumping out of that lens and into others, then you don't have empathy. Because the ability to empathize is not, see, this is another thing that people get confused. Empathy is not emotions. Empathy is not feelings. Empathy is the ability to jump out of your perspective and live into and get into somebody else's. If you can't do that, you lack empathy. Empathy is not fucking feeling or virtue signaling or being emotional and fucking bleeding all over everybody. Hemorrhaging fucking emotions over everybody and calling that empathy. That's not empathy. That's borderline personality disorder. I can't say those things. But that is unhealthy. It's not good. That's not empathy. It's the opposite of that. The definition of empathy is the ability to live in someone else's shoes or put yourself in someone else's perspective. That's empathy. So if you're going around saying, I fucking hate this thing and this ad is just my worldview and that's fucking my reality is reality, then you don't have empathy. And that's why when I think people get upset when they say that, anyway, that's not gaslighting. That's just fucking fact. If you can't see other points of view, anyway. So I'm getting on my tits. It really is just getting on my tits. This thing where I've been working on a video bit, like some comedy around the fuckwit thing, right? What is a fuckwit? Fuckwit, like love, right? Or a joke or humor or those organic things. They can't be clearly defined because they are things that you know when you see it. Everyone collectively knows what a fuckwit is. Everyone, if you've had real love and you've had true love, you know what love is. But it's intangible. It's not something that can be measured or defined, okay? The second you try to measure or define it or put fucking things around it or parameters around it or limit it, it ruins it because it's not tangible, okay? That's the thing. But there's all these fucks who keep putting their rigid worldview, even if I agree with it some of the time. It's not my full-time job to think about feminism all of the time. Need therapy. In fact, anyone who's on Twitter for more than a couple of hours a day probably needs some therapy because you're hiding something, or there's some unhealthy behaviors or some unhealthy impulses that are leading to there. Okay. If it's not your job, then and you're just arguing relentlessly about one thing, then I don't think that that's necessarily very healthy. Again, different lens. See, I think this is the thing where, because I've gone through, studied politics, went into tech, so I was in policy, then in child protection and welfare, grew up poor, had money, then had no money, had life experience, fucking went into UX out of politics, then policy, then digital policy. Now I'm going into psychology. I'm so used to just going from different fucking angles. There's different ways, right? I don't watch that stupid shit. Okay, so Shannon said, what about Dipper's joke on I'm a Celeb? I don't watch dumb shit because I don't watch dumb shit and get outraged and then tweet about it. I don't know. I know. Stupid. It rots your brains. That's part of the machine. Reality TV. That's why Trump's president. Because of reality television and all this stupid shit. Fill your brains up. Again, I'm not saying you can't let off steam. I'm just saying, fuck me. You know that? What's that joke that says, was like, I'm going to get in trouble, cancelled for this one, but it's like, so arguing on the internet is like competing in the Paralympics. Remember that joke? Even if you win, you're both still retarded. I love that fucking joke. You will pry that fucking joke from my cold dead hands. It's fucking true though. Stop! Who cares? What are you angry about? Okay, okay, here's the question to ask yourself. What productive thing, and I'm not saying this to preach, I'm saying this because I struggle with it too. What important task or meaningful task or emotion are you avoiding watching that shit? Be honest. Be honest with yourself. What are you avoiding by watching this stupid fucking junk food? Right? That's all I'm saying. It's just a question. There's no judgment. I don't judge people. I rant, but I don't judge. Okay. I'm just trying to make fucking jokes and talk about shit. I'm just saying, right? Fucking step away. Like, it's just too intense. You know that thing where it's just too much intensity? Just dial it down to 2 and dial it down to 3. Like, it's not healthy to be on fucking 9 and 10 all the time on one issue. You're going to go mad. We are all going collectively fucking bonkers because people are at 10 all the fucking time. And are unable to compromise, unable to empathise, dehumanising everybody they disagree with. Even people they agree with aren't pure enough. And this is how we got here. And I'm fucking sick of it. And this is me, Mum, saying, I don't give a fuck who started it. Stop it. Well, knock your fucking heads together. That's what my mum used to say. See, I was raised right. But it's true. I don't care who fucking started it. Right? It's just fucking stop it. It's the same thing with fucking feminists and TRAs. Stop arguing with the same crazy fucking 10 people over and over again. Stop arguing about clownfish. Do a fucking degree. Do a science degree. And do research. And fucking sit there and like go and study it. You know, one thing that I do like about people, it's like, are you producing something or are you just fucking griping? And I know, again, we're friends. I'm not going to fucking say that it's just easy to go get a degree anywhere but Australia. Here we can because we're funded. I'm being hyperbolic. Shut up. I also look schizophrenic when I'm arguing with the voices in my head. It's funny, isn't it? But like, I'm just fucking, we know what a joke is. We know what a mean, we can tell. If you listen to yourself and you're actually present in the moment and you have fucking basic functioning human skills, there's a reason why the law has this thing called the reasonable person test. Would the reasonable person, now, yes, there's questions around defining that, but for the most part, we know that's legally defined. A person of average IQ, of average intelligence, average healthy emotional development, would they think this thing is okay? Or would they act reasonably in this situation? That's legally defined in most countries. The reasonable person test. I work from that principle, okay? The reasonable person test applies to jokes. You can tell when a joke is mean-spirited and punching down. I generally don't punch down, okay? Except for the fucking retard joke, but I'm not punching in anyone's direction. Who cares? Political correctness, that's a fucking different thing. All right? That's great. Sometimes you're not punching anywhere and the joke's just funny. Who cares? Fuck. And then you end up arguing for 3 hours about your fucking feelings and whether it was a joke or not. Lasts longer than the fucking joke. It's like, God, not everything needs to be fucking deconstructed. People got too much time on their hands. Maybe I'm just too busy. Too busy to sit there. I've said this before. This is my life's work. Sorry, spit. Talking about this stuff, researching this stuff. I'm working towards doing a PhD so I can come up with a therapeutic framework to fix fucking internet addiction and all the compulsive behaviours that go with it. And the political implications. That's my fucking life's work, and I think you're all fucking obsessed. Fucking ideology. Fuck it. You've got ideas and then you've got arguments and then you've got process and then you've got ideology, and I don't want anything to do with fucking ideology. You're all nuts. Everybody, all of you, massive generalizations. That's it. There you go. I got animated. But it's all part of this actual main point. Believe it or not, it's actually part of my main point. Right? Excuse me. Which is that this is what when you fall into this controversy about this reality show, okay, or this controversy about the media, or you're reacting to the news, or you're in a constant state of twistiness rather than producing or doing anything or working on being happy. And I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying that the answer isn't structural as well. I'm just saying there does come a point where it's partially your responsibility to control your own behavior and think and reflect and let stuff go and try to be happy in the worst of circumstances. Again, that's not gaslighting. It's said with love and compassion, and sometimes some people just need to fucking hear it. Okay? That just because you're miserable doesn't mean that you should be fucking like imposing your political will on everybody else. And that's the problem we have with wokeism. It's the problem we have with like MAGA. And a lot of this is a consequence of America's war on the working class. Because they don't have the tools to fucking revolt properly. Right? We're seeing a fucking revolution happen. We're just in the early stages. Yeah. I know. Well, okay. So Shannon said, thought it was relevant as to what is acceptable to say in a public forum, but instead of the internet, it's TV. Yeah. I think it is. And that's okay. I'm saying we should have that conversation. Absolutely. But okay. I think I've been misunderstood. I'm saying that by having the conversation, and this is where I'm going to go into marketing theory and why you're being fucking had for fools. I've talked about this with KFC basically, but you've got your old internet rules. You've got your, the idea of like democratization of content and free content and free conversations, open conversations. AOL fucked it for everybody. The business model is what fucked this thing for everyone, and marketing theory. So I'm a UX person, user experience. What does that mean? Well, that means that I fucking fit roughly in a bucket of understanding the whole life cycle from the beginning of like engaging with content through to the website, through to apps. I understand like design. I'm a human-centered, well, what you would call a lean designer or human-centered designer, right? But that involves SEO. That's multidisciplinary digital. So basically, there's psych theory, there's design. You sort of cover the whole gamut of that journey and interaction with technology. That's what I do. right? Is how people interact with technology and how you can get people to take certain actions. That's my point. Marketing 101, especially on the internet, it's fucking gospel. What's in it for me? That's the user's catch cry. So when you're a user in technology, the user's catch cry is what's in it for me? Always be thinking, this is the grand, vast wisdom of the dumb fucks in marketing land, right? Which is that a lot of dummies work in marketing and have just implemented this stuff without thinking about it, without the theory, without the psychology behind it, and understanding that they're actually playing with really fucking dangerous lizard brain shit. Watch, Tristan Harris does a lot on this, right? It's very similar to what I do, except I do it from a political different angle. What's in it for me is the key, sort of the pillar, the core pillar of marketing. So when you are designing a website or an ad or an experience or software or social media content or anything, you have to keep in your mind, right, what the customer. It's a very cynical view of humanity, to be honest with you, because it's that whole selfish assumption. We've assumed too much. We've assumed that, again, there's some choice stuff behind this, but the assumption is that people are only in it if you can give them what they want. And a big part of user experience is researching what they want and giving it to them when they want it, where they want it, and meeting them where they are, at that point, right? So let's use an example. So let's say you want to sell someone some fucking sneakers, okay? Now, you know that they like Nike, you know that you like, that, but in the old days, it was basically create a TV ad, talk about the product, sell the product on its benefits, list all its benefits, right? And hope that people sold. If you've watched Mad Men, you'll see that there was a progression in advertising in the 60s, around sort of 60s, around that time, where it became creative work, where they would try to get attention. So basically what you would try to do is rather than just have a segment or a slot. So the reason that they're called soap operas, I don't know if people know this bit of advertising history. I'm sure, I don't know what to talk about that's fairly common knowledge. I should just talk about this. If I'm telling you to suck eggs, then whatever. But the reason that the soap operas are called soap operas, right, is because when in the early days of television, they needed somehow to make money. And the only way that they could make money on TV stations and those sorts of things was to have ads and news segments, right, or TV. And you would... and then basically in those things, you just have a segment where it talks about the benefits and all that sort of stuff, right? I talked about that. Sorry, I wandered off on a tangent. My brain fucking farted. But then what happened was you would get to this thing called sponsored content. The soap opera is the original form of branded content. Now, I would argue that pretty much everything you see now is branded content because of the business model. Okay. So, sucking eggs. That's relevant to the Cadbury cream egg ad, isn't it? Anyway, no, but I'm just saying. So where advertising went from just sort of list of benefits, and that there's one school of thought with advertising, which is, a lot of the trade mags have that, where it's just a list of features and functionality and that sort of stuff. But there's another area of advertising that's a bit more exciting, which is where it became creative. So what you would do is you'd buy an ad slot and you'd do a big campaign that was based on creative ideas and getting attention and conversation, and that was the thing that they realized would actually get people to shift brands. So what they did was you had that thing where you couldn't get people to at some point the market just freezes and you get market share. Okay, so you've got, this person buys this product because of these benefits, and this person buys these products because it works for them. That's the what's in it for me, kind of thing, right? But then you've got at some point you're grappling over market share. Coke versus Pepsi, classic example. Let's use Nike as an example. Nike versus Reebok. So what you're trying to do is there's people that are diehard Nike fans, diehard Reebok fans, and then you've got the people in the middle who don't give a fuck. And that's where advertising comes in, right? And in terms of economics, you're talking about, especially with elastic goods, right? Theory of elasticity and all those sorts of things, that with things where you could do like a promotion. So like you've got pricing, price drop against the competitor. You've got a number of different ways, but then you've got great creative and brand loyalty and great messaging and inspiration. And that's where that came out sort of in the 60s and sort of evolved from there with those big agencies, right? The big creative agencies. I'm getting to my point. You'll see where I'm going. Now, that was that. So, soap operas was my point. So soap operas became that first kind of branded content. So when you talk about branded content, it is basically the company that wants to advertise pays for that slot, right? But in exchange for that, they get ad placement and association with those famous people. So the reason they're called soap operas is because it was during the day aimed at housewives, right, to sell them brands of soap. And what you would have is that the soap companies, I'm speaking simplistically, but the soap companies would buy, would sponsor these soaps. They think like Young and the Restless and fucking those sorts of things, right? And they would have the soaps and basically with the view of trying to nudge that needle and get that differentiation. Now, what that does is that people associate that brand with their favorite show or their favorite stars or their favorite celebrities. That was the early days of where this is. See, when I say that this is a fucking thing coming home to roost over a long period of time, this is what I mean. There's a lot of history there. I don't know whether people like me talking about this stuff and whether it's interesting or really dull, but it's interesting to me. And that's all that matters because it's my stream. Go over to Tim Pool. He'll tell you some shit. He's probably better at it than me, but that's okay. We're just talking. No, but basically, so that was sort of the early days of advertising, okay? And now, then you've got TV. So you've kind of ended up with the news and programming. So then you had slots around sort of your so when you say what sort of, just trying to think whether I'm going to go down this rabbit hole very quickly. So the way that TV was designed is that it would be segmented, right, in terms of like demographics. So who was most likely to be home and watching at what time? Okay, so what you would do is in the morning you'd have your cartoons to get the kids, right, all fueled by advertising and sugar cereals and junk food. And that's where they started to see that was bad. So they started to put limitations around what could be advertised to children. Also, this is why when people get outraged over a chocolate egg, I say you look like Christian conservatives, because Christian conservatives have been fucking arguing against what's appropriate in the public airways forever. It is related to your point, Shannon, about TV versus internet. I'm saying they're not unrelated because these conversations are ongoing and constant, like broadcast regulations, decency, it's been the history of this stuff. George Carlin and his 7 dirty words and, all of these things. It's massive amounts of history. But basically you'd have segments. So they would do the daytime television, which was just sort of talk, sales products, selling vacuums, selling like domestic products, all that sort of sexist bullshit. Right. And while the dads weren't home and the kids were at school, mum would have the TV and they would sort of spoon feed mum this idealistic view of the 1950s and like fucking all of this sort of stuff. Like TV is propaganda. All media is propaganda. And that's why when I talk about the intention, it's all been geared around advertising. The pillar to advertising is what's in it for me, or everything that is an ad wants you to do something. Take X action, whether it is a TV commercial from 1950 right up to the President of the United States using Twitter to incite violence. Okay, so they're the same fucking psychology. That's my point. Or same. They're kind of two sides. They're related. They're not unrelated to each other. Everyone wants you to do something. And this is why understanding propaganda is really important. Critical reading of the media is really important. And I think, and Shannon, I know that you were saying about sort of having the discussion about jokes and that sort of stuff, to have the conversation. Absolutely. I think it's very important to look at it critically, but I also think that there is a line between that and buying into those who are deliberately trying to get the response that they intended out of you and you behaving like a puppet. See what I'm saying? So, it's fresh in my mind because I'm studying Skinner and behaviorism at the moment for psych, so it's fresh in my mind. But all this positive, negative reinforcement stuff, right? But the history. So basically, you'd have segments, and then you'd have family programming. You'd have the news, which we all know is bullshit and always has been. It's been a fucking mechanism of like promoting the interests of the United States, right, from the beginning, or Western. It's propaganda. It's all propaganda. It's all just shows other things. Like, at that point, corporations and the government could have control over the airwaves and what was said, and there was one or two channels, right? One or two channels, probably four segments, okay? Because remember, at this time, TV turned off at like 10 p.m., okay? So it didn't go all night, but eventually they found sort of the deadhead audience, which was where the impulse buyers. So that's why you see a lot of infomercials and all that sort of stuff after 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. And why you also see televangelists on at 4 a.m. because most people who are up at 4 a.m. are vulnerable, okay, in some way. Especially, like, this is all fucking cynical shit. It's all cynical, and this is why it's not unrelated to what you were saying about the reality show, which is why I don't watch them. I do like the Kardashians, but it's a guilty pleasure, and I do watch these things for guilty pleasure. I'm not one of those pretentious cunts that's like, I don't watch that shit. I'm just saying, getting outraged over it is just you're feeding the beast. So what happened with the internet was that with TV, America had a large amount of the history with America is interesting because it's the same fucking race that's happening with tech at the moment that happened with television and cable television, which was that every time an independent network sort of came up and looked like it was going to take market share, they'd gobble it up. And that's how you ended up with these media conglomerates. That's why you ended up with the media ownership laws that we do, which is to stop these massive corporations and monopolies from dominating the discourse, because we're seeing exactly this from Twitter and Google and Facebook right now. Same. There's no new solutions to all these. This is an old problem. It's just wearing a different outfit. It's just wearing fucking green hair. But so basically what happened was that, and I'm being very, very simplistic here, but, that's why there was this massive race to the bottom, I would say, when it comes to media ownership in the United States, and also this massive hegemonic force across the world around movies and because, the United States government knows that if you control culture, you can influence politics, right? And you can influence and you can sell this stuff. They can use their ownership in media. Murdoch uses it effectively to divide and get what he wants and promote wars and all that sort of stuff because Murdoch profits from war. This is Chomsky. Let's not go into Chomsky. But this is the advertising pillar of Chomsky's manufacturing consent. All right, so he's got the propaganda model. Read that. Propaganda model. Advertising is one of the pillars of that. And so basically Chomsky's argument was that by the very nature of the fact that the business model, right, the news and TV and all of our media that we consume is funded by corporations, we're never going to get anything that dissents from that view, okay? And that's what we're seeing now. We're just seeing it with big tech. We're just seeing we're seeing exactly the thing that Chomsky warned us about. And it's the same thing. But it's a business model, advertising, ad-driven. That's why there was such a big push to monetize and run PPC and run ads and all those things and put all these algorithms in place, was to maximize not only our attention. Tristan talks about our attention, which is yes, because you do ultimately consume more ads. So the ads, are the money that come in. But also, by its very nature, advertising is designed to convert, to get us to act. Okay? Propaganda and advertising are the same fucking thing. Just that propaganda wants you to have a different action that isn't necessarily purchase. Now, the sweet spot is when you've got advertising and propaganda in the same fucking ad. And that's what we're seeing now. But also, remember, the business model, branded content. How do you make a show? I made, I think, $4.20 from my entire month of streaming on YouTube, okay? You can't make money without like selling ads and monetizing, right? That's the thing. But there's new models, like we'll talk about. Patreon is separate to that. So Patreon attempts to solve that problem. So let's not go on a fucking rabbit hole. But basically what happened here was that I was in the industry. Everyone's just I was fucking talking about exciting things around branded content. But I thought that it would be transparent and honest, that it was an ad. And this is where we find ourselves now, which is that basically they've, especially the Democrats, Obama's campaign model applied marketing tactics such as, what's in it for me? What do I get? How can we fucking use these apply the marketing theory, the tactics, and things like the funnel and all those sorts of things, and move people to act politically. So what happened here was that marketing fused with politics, and they shouldn't have touched each other. They shouldn't have touched each other because this is what's happened. So I know that was kind of a weird, I've skipped over. That's 100 years of history. There's a lot of complexities to it. But basically when people say, like relevant, what's acceptable to say in a public forum, but instead of the internet, it's TV. The thing is, the internet was founded to bypass. See, the internet is constantly trying to bypass the corporations. It was developed by the Department of Defense and all that stuff. In my last video, I said it was nice while it lasted. We had a good run. Okay. And we are now on the Fisher-Price internet. So what I see happening is that there's going to be a letterboxing of sort of the range of acceptable views that will be on corporate social media. We have to accept that, okay? The letterbox is going to be here, and one of those is, and all the things that fit in here are things that are profitable or selling you something or someone benefits. Media Studies 101, critical thinking, okay? Critical media reading. Who benefits from this conversation? If you benefit someone with big money, you're going to be heard. If you don't, then you're likely to fall afoul of it. Now, I think that the wrong assumption that we've made is that the internet is what it was intended to be, and it is free, and it is. I think a lot of it is some of us old school people, right, had a different vision for what was happening, and the rules changed on us 10 years ago. That's what happened. Corporations took control, seized control of all of the tech, and started to gradually, slowly chip away at what was and was not acceptable based on what is profitable for their interests. Rage your Chomsky! So, so the thing is, what isn't acceptable in a public forum is what is profitable if it's mainstream. Okay, that's the thing. There's a point where it's just not. And I think that what's happened is that Twitter knows where its bread is buttered. They know that the right are on the fringes, right, and that there's a lot of power in this like activist woke model. This is a built-in, well-designed fucking sales machine. It's a marketing machine, and that's why I see it for what it is. It's a fucking sales funnel for bullshit. But it doesn't mean that you're crazy, but what it means is that you need to be more critical than ever, because what we're seeing is also you've got, countries fucking with other countries and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of propaganda out there at the moment, and I think it's really important that people start fucking calming their heads and actually, if you can, turning it all off. And I'm not saying that you can't use it. I'm just saying really take this time to go, okay, what the fuck is going on? But anyway, also TV is like irrelevant. I don't think that TV, who was it that said, if you want to never get seen by TV ads at this point? There's very few people watch TV. Over 50s and 60s do still tend to watch TV, but they're also generally doing it while multitasking or looking at Facebook. So those tech companies. Anyway, side point. So what we've done is we've gone and assumed that, first of all, only under 30s use fucking technology, which is bullshit, because we also happen to know that over 60s are the largest like user group in a lot on Facebook in particular. Anyway, so yes. I kind of wandered off on a tangent, but in marketing land, right? This what's in it for me. Now you got to think about like when you see any content, even this. I mean, what do I want from you? Okay, I'm going to declare it. I'm going to be transparent. What I want from you is that maybe you think that I'm right a little bit, making a point, that you stick around, hear what I've got to say, recommend me to your friends, maybe give me some bucks so that I don't have to sell out to corporations and I can keep doing this and be free. That's what I want from you. And to interact and have ideas and, not be a fuckwit. But join my Discord. But just assume that everything is an ad or propaganda. And also, when you're reading a piece of content, ask what the interests are. So in user experience design, what you want to do is design an experience that absolutely just maximizes people's action. That is defined, right? Part of my job, workshopping, empathy exercises, experience mapping. That was my point. So when we went from TV to internet, what we managed to do, and this is why Facebook was significant, because when it was TV, it was based on basic demographics, times of day, and, sort of the average view of people. So your nuclear family, dad goes to work, mum stays at home, mum cleans. So you advertise soaps because you're going to reach, how do you reach the most people for the least amount of money, and to convert for the most bang for buck, right? How do you get more sales? To shift that needle between, from say Nike to Reebok, right? Showing my age with Nike and Reebok, aren't I? Anyway, but let's say that. So, but with the internet, what it allowed you to do is through Facebook and sharing all of these interests, what it did was it allowed advertisers direct access to exactly who they wanted. Now, where it comes unstuck is that that's also open to more sinister manipulative forces as well. Okay, so obviously young girls who are vulnerable and struggling with mental health and in certain communities and like certain celebrities are more likely to have a profile, right? Yes. So Philip said Channel 10 is owned by Viacom. Yeah, exactly. Murdoch and yeah. It's all just, anyway. Yeah, so globally, but the thing is they go after Murdoch because Murdoch is a convenient fucking distraction. Look over there. Mr. Burns figure for big tech, which is the biggest, most sinister threat. But big tech is 100 times more powerful than Rupert Murdoch ever would be. I know Murdoch owns shares in these companies. I'm just saying, just generally speaking, News Corp, they have a lot of power, but Twitter and Facebook have the keys, right, to this stuff. Basically the ability to go, well, we already know that person likes Nike. Let's not bother advertising we just only go to the people that like Nike and those that can be nudged. So if they like both Reebok and Nike, then they can be persuaded and nudged in the direction of your brand. And that's where branded content comes in, right? And so branded content, and also because so the reason why branded content became a thing is because ads are fucking annoying. People use ad blockers. Okay, so this is the history around ad blockers and that sort of stuff, which is, I can probably do a separate thing on this, but, the reason why branded content became a thing was, first of all, publications were desperate to make money, so they put AdSense on their platform. But what you'd find is that people would just hide ads and you'd use ad blockers and they weren't converting. So like your average conversion rate, a really smashing conversion rate on a banner ad is probably 2%, 3%. If you're really smashing it, it would be 5 to 7, right? The click-through rate. Okay, so it's not huge. Even without trying, you probably get about 1% just by running a stupid ad. But basically what happened was that people just started to hide the ads and not ignore them. So what they started to do with things like Jezebel and the Gawker, those publications, Perez Hilton and all those early blog properties, was monetize them differently with sponsored posts. Okay, so what that was they the brand would buy that space on the site right? And they would bring the audience and the readers, and they would get journalism from Jezebel or Vox or whatever, and they would it's advertising, but it converts more because it's more persuasive, because there's that trust factor, right? So it's one of those things where we're constantly trying to fucking defeat evil advertising fucks. It's the whole business model broken. So then you've got all these publications that are incentivized only to do branded content. Now, young people not taught critical media skills, reading this shit in the fandoms, reading this shit on the news, reading this stuff, consuming this content without a real understanding of the fact that it's actually sponsored and it's paid for and it's bought. We're seeing this shit with the gender movement where it's obvious who's paying for the fucking publication, right? But that happens everywhere. The Democrats are planting pieces. Where you know that thing where they say, oh, we spent $400 million on advertising. Where do you think it went? Do you think it went on TV ads, or do you think it went on fucking buying journos to write fucking thunk pieces? In a dying business model. It's the business model, right? Now, because PPC is largely ineffective. It's a good boost. It's better than organic, but at the same time, if you can get a direct, like let's say if I could get seen in front of Joe Rogan's audience, right? Or if I could get seen in front of, I'm just trying to think of someone whose tribe wouldn't abuse me. Jimmy Dore's audience, for example, or someone like that, right? That was worth paying for, because I want, they come to me. It's the same thing. I wouldn't pay, but I'm just saying, like, there's people that will receive money for placement. And that's where you created an economy, the grifter economy, the thunk pieces. So what you do is you create all these fucking incentives in place with this business model for people to just churn out bullshit for $200. And with employment the way that it is in the United States, and, obviously here as well, but that whole, all of that stuff around freelancing and, digital nomads and working for yourself, and that freelance, that narrative, work for yourself, be freelance copywriting, freedom from the man. You're not free from the man. You end up owned by the man. People who are free from the man make $4 on YouTube. I'm grateful to my patrons. I'm just saying, right? People who are truly free aren't rich. That's why I'm always suspicious of, okay, that's actually not a fair thing to say. I'm saying that I haven't cracked that model yet, and I know what I'm doing. I tend to be suspicious of people who are pushing a specific viewpoint and making a lot of money. I think it's good to be skeptical of that just in general. Okay, I'm not saying that making money is bad, or that you can't monetize this stuff by being authentic, or whatever. I'm saying that it's incredibly difficult and rare. And if so I'm just, anyway, it helps to be like largely skeptical of people who are making a fuck ton of bank from sort of the culture wars, right? Like that's one of my concerns, like with, that's okay. I'm not going to cast shade, but it is something that I respect that they've had to make it work and all this stuff. And it's not coming from a place of like jealousy or whatever, but I did see sort of Heather Hying and Brett's Patreon, and it looks like they're making bank. And I'm sitting there going, like they landed on their feet is all I'm saying. All right. I'm just saying that there's, it's like, well, if they were truly, like what we're seeing with Twitter and all that stuff, that's really a problem. But I think that there's also a rebound thing, like the whole crowdfunding rebounder. So I think that what we're going to do is just start to see more diversity of platforms. And I would hope that more innovation around blockchain and all those sorts of things. Anyway, alternative social networks, but I'll get to that point. Because right now what we've seen is basically the big four tech companies colluding against competitors. And that, again, that's why you got to shift lenses. It's very important to shift disciplines and really just read lots of different things from lots of different people, from lots of ideas, because when you apply securitization, in this instance, which is an international relations theory, or you apply like a Marxist lens, or you apply, apply different lenses, you start to get a sense of like where the solutions might lie for a start. So, but yeah, so basically it's the business model. So people are incentivized to fucking create outrage content. Now the problem is that we've really largely had a blind spot for, I think what we've done well, when I say we, I mean me. I know that there's interests. So I think because I come from politics and political and I've got that background as well, fused with user experience. I've always had a strong sense of fucking sniffing for bullshit. I can tell when interests are trying to generally tell me when I'm being manipulated. And even then I didn't see this one coming, which leads me to think that it might have been, I think for most people who are working in tech, it's just that entrepreneurial mindset is that you do tend to be optimistic. You know, it was Silicon Valley, that thing was like, we're going to change the world and we're going to make the world a better place. They really believe it. They truly believe it when they start, and then the machine eats them. And I think that that's really what's happened here. But at the same time, we really, really didn't think, again, at the practitioner level, not at the strategic level, because obviously people fucking like CIA and fucking government, they can go fuck themselves. I'm talking about your everyday sort of user experience person working in tech. We underestimated, there's a blind spot. We assumed, our assumptions were wrong about people's capacity for critical thought, the cultural differences between America and the rest of the world, the extent of the division in the United States and other places, right? How you can actually fuck with people's heads over the course of 50 years and end up here, right? Yeah, if you're American and watching this, Marx was right. Read Marx, fucking, and do with that what you may. Chomsky's right. Read Chomsky. What was I going to say? No, but so basically what we're saying is big tech growing based on these massive, massive corporations who, if they were like newspapers, would have been broken up, or were banks, would have been broken up, or any other, they've got too much power. So on one hand, you've got a fuckwit being banned for incitement. And I'm disturbed by how many people are cheering that on, to be honest. It just shows people aren't thinking. Because what it's actually showing is that, first of all, I said this before, Twitter has the power to deplatform whoever the fuck they deem the enemy. What's concerning me is people calling them terrorists without gravity and without considering the legal and implications for overreach with that word. That word has special legal standing, which means that you can detain people without arrest. You can hold them. We've got Guantanamo Bay. Someone if you get charged, they don't need to even tell anyone. There's no due process. There is nothing that you can do if the United States decide that you're fucking like worth making an example of, okay? You should never cheer that on. That should be something that, I mean, even in the most egregious of circumstances, I can think of alternatives. Okay. This is something, again, that's just my point of view. I don't necessarily agree that the Patriot Act did any good. I think it just made things worse. And I think that it largely led to a lot of the paranoia that we're seeing now. And we're not dealing with the root cause, which is mental health, material circumstances, right? Indefinite detention. Yes, exactly. Indefinite detention. No trial. Fucking torture. They can do whatever the fuck they want. And people who are sitting around in their little fucking, woke cells, wherever the fuck they're sitting I don't know, they're not sitting in cafes, the parents' basement, cheering on and declaring everybody being terrorists. What you're doing is propagandizing the securitization of American citizens by their own government. So if you don't know what securitization is, what it is roughly, it's international relations. Look it up. It's basically it's a framework or an approach to assess a process. It's a process that follows, right? So basically, I would say that let's use, say, Venezuela as an example, or let's use a less hot button issue. Let's use here we go. Well, let's just let me think of a good example. I hadn't thought this through. So basically, what needs to happen is that they just declare you a communist, or declare you a terrorist, or declare you a threat, a security threat, make you a target. Okay, it's a process of how this is done. There's no comment on what it is, but it is effectively a securitizing their own people. Right? This is crazy. But basically, so what you need, what you need is to make the claim, and then you put them sort of under surveillance or justify, so it rationalizes sort of the way that you treat them. So terrorism is a good example of that, this securitization. But then what you also need to do is make sure that enough of the population believe the lie or believe the claims that you're making so that they are supporters of what you're doing. And that's the securitization process. And that's what we're seeing with this Trump supporter stuff, is that there's all the blue checks are basically securitizing their political opponents. And no one's saying anything. It's astonishing. Anyway, I know I didn't explain that well. I'm a bit tired, but I might have a quick break and get a drink and stretch my legs and get the, dick out of my mouth and all that stuff. But I'm saying, like, basically what we're seeing here is, depending on which lens you look at, I started this stream talking about how I understand that Twitter and Facebook and all these things probably thought that, again, there's lots of competing demands and needs here, which is that there was an imminent threat. They needed to shut it down, all of that stuff. Now, whether or not that then leads to further paranoia and more violence and a double down and all this stuff, that remains to be seen. But I think that we just need to be a little bit more charitable in the fact that this is an impossible problem. But we don't need to lose sight of the fact that Twitter, Google, Facebook, Amazon, fucking all of these companies colluded to deplatform the political opponents, right? Hang on, let me rephrase that. Right, we can't ignore the fact, if you look at it through this lens, right, through a specific lens, and again, I'm not saying it's the right one, I'm saying it's one perspective on this very, very complex issue, which is that effectively what has happened is that the United States Democrats have securitized their own citizens and their political opponents in collusion with Twitter, Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Did I say Amazon? Whatever. Those guys, Apple, collusion, right, against a competitor and competitors. So what they've done is Gab is still up, thankfully, because I think Gab actually complies with their policies. But I think we need to look at the antitrust angle on some of this stuff as well, which is that there's antitrust suits that are pending against these big tech companies. And I hope that we remind them of what they did, because what this shows, yes, again, I'm not saying it might not have been necessary at the time, okay, because there was an immediate threat, right? I think on balance, I probably agree with that action. And I think if I was CEO and if I had, I'd be more worried about what would happen if I didn't act. And I think that it's an impossible decision to make, right? I'm glad I didn't have to make it. I'm pretty sure we're all glad we didn't have to make that decision. But the implications of that decision need to be brought to the front of our imagination, right? Which is that what happened this week was Amazon, Google, Twitter, Facebook colluding to shut off a competitor for speech, right? And again, I'm not saying that the speech was good. I'm just saying that Parler have largely presented themselves as a competitor to the big four and an alternative. That's anti-competitive behavior. That's terrifying. Fucking cartel. Not to mention, it's a global cartel. And that's why I'm nervous about even doing this fucking stream. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Connie said, when someone believes something which everyone does, then anything they say on that subject is propaganda. Yeah. The thing is that things are just a lot more complicated, and it just really depends on what lens that you're looking through. Because if you're empathizing, right? If you are, yes. I'm just saying, I'm not making, see, this is the problem with these fucking culture wars pricks. This is the problem with the culture wars pricks, is that they run with one thing, one perspective, and at the expense of every other potential perspective. I was ranting about that at the beginning of the stream with Radfems. There are other fucking points of view that make things a bit more complicated. Such as, like I've been talking about with gender, which is that people believe it. It's a belief now. You're arguing with Christians about fucking evolution. Stop it. They believe it. It's not going to change. We just got to make sure that we are protected and able to assert our own beliefs, and that doesn't become the dominant belief. That's all. That the horse is bolted. Okay. Now, and it's not as simple as coming for Trump. In this instance, I think that was a good call, because I've been in these fucking. This was, again, if you are in that situation and having to make an impossible decision where it could have gotten a lot uglier. It could have been worse. It could have gone terribly. This could have been a fucking catastrophic massacre. Could have been a mass. You can't tell me with fucking the culture of mass shootings and all that shit that happens in America and all these angry fucking men who, did you see the posts on Parler? The fantasies about the violence, and again, I've talked about this. The answer is not to deplatform mentally unwell people. It is to send a social worker to help them and we have to start talking about de-radicalization and stop pouring fuel on the flames by othering people and using hyperbolic rhetoric, such as sorry, I feel like I'm picking on you today, Shannon. I'm not. I'm not. It's just you say the right things at the right time to get me all amped up. But I'm saying that this is the biggest, fucking most ridiculous thing, that my frustration with pretty much every content creator who's involved in this commentary is that they take one thin perspective and that's the only perspective, and then they run with it like it's rhetoric, and it's like nothing is that simple. Nothing is that simple. And if I was we don't live in a fucking pure world where 7 billion people agree. It doesn't work that way. We also have 10% of fucking fuckwits. We also have an angry, impoverished, you can't tell me anyone is fucking surprised that this happened. Right? They dropped the fucking ball big time with any financial support. The Democrats have done nothing to show any empathy towards anything to do with Trump supporters. If they had any integrity whatsoever or any fucking compassion whatsoever, they would be engaging these people and saying, how can we help you? Not fucking demonizing them further so that they go further into the fucking dark web, and this is how you end up here. I've seen this. I've been watching this for 10 years from fucking Tumblr and 4chan. I fucking observe, and I've been watching. It's like Age of Empires. If you ever seen Age of Empires, played Age of Empires 2, you can't see the other side, but you're sitting there and you're fucking Stone Age, you're sitting there and they're building tools and they're progressing through the Stone Age, progressing and getting wood and all that stuff. They can't see the other side. They don't know how far they are. They're both in the fucking Stone Age at the same time. So 10 years ago, they start a little fucking thing where they throw a catapult. Age of Empires. This is what's happening. And now we are fucking pouring gasoline on this thing. And that's the thing, is that we need to have a full view of both sides and what is happening, and transparency around that conversation so you can accurately assess the fucking risk. And that was what I think I've talked about this before on previous streams, which is that we need this stuff out in the open, because you cannot, I kind of sit there and I go, well, fucking hell, Jack and Mark, right? They also have access to data we do not have access to. Remember this, that they made decisions based on not just publicly available stuff, but messages, organisers, group memberships. They can pinpoint these people and know everything about them. Like I told you before about marketing, they know everything. So they were equipped. In this instance, I would say, if I was a CEO, I would say, okay, all right, and trying to assess this threat. And it seems like there was a real threat there, that there's a lot of, even if Trump didn't do it, a lot of people fucking took him at his word and were organising. Remember, they have access to this data. They have access to all of it. Okay, WhatsApp, all this stuff. Okay, but the thing is, what we need full visibility on all of these on the Age of Empires tribes. If you played Civilizations or any of those things, you need that visibility. Because right now they're sitting there and they're organising in these fucking cities and they're building their walls and they're getting their weapons together, getting their battle. And every so often, like I said, Tumblr and 4chan have been going at it every so often, every couple of years since fucking for 15 years. And when I say Tumblr versus 4chan, I mean that as the rough tribes. I'm not saying the actual platforms. It's just that I'm talking simplistically about the cult, two distinct cults, right? But every so often they'll have a skirmish and realize that they're fucking not ready. But they're still just constantly fucking going at it. And it spills out into the mainstream every so often. It spills out into Twitter. It spills out in the mainstream. And this is just what's happening. Radicalization is the real problem here in general. And the fact that we aren't that's what I was saying. This is why I laughed a little bit at Jack and Zuck's situation, was because they've gone and banned everybody. So the conversations aren't out loud anymore. I mean, in fairness, that's simplistic, because this is where the big data stuff comes in, because they know everything there is about you, even if you're not on the website, right? Don't be naive. But so this is in terms of, this is where it's complex when it comes to the Patriot Act, because it's like, well, on one hand, it can stop the most that data, the NSA and TSA can stop these things before they are catastrophically worse. But at the same time, right, if they didn't act or they didn't ban people, then or shut this down, then it could have been worse. Or there's just lots and lots and lots of fucking decisions to make. And this is coming home to roost. If I was Jack, I would be shitting my fucking pants and hoping that they shut this stuff down. Twitter is bigger than him. It's bigger than one person. It is a failed, it's an error. It's a failed experiment. If this was a scientific experiment, let's say if Twitter was, okay, this is the thing about private versus sort of, let's say you're in research or an academic. If you were conducting research, like doing let's say a psychology experiment or any kind of experiment, at some point there comes a point where you have to abandon the experiment. Okay, because it's just unethical. And I think that business need to have that same, and business, it's the same thing. There comes a point where this is just, it's too dangerous. These are weapons. And this is why, it's like, well, this is why what can you do as a person? Well, think about stuff. Use it as a tool, but don't, like, your critical thinking. Think about, I was talking about marketing theory. Think about when you consume a piece of content, what are they asking of you? Like for me, what am I asking of you? I'm asking you to just think about things a bit differently. And yeah, there's a financial wish there. I would like to do this full time. I'm not going to manipulate you into doing it. It's going to be harder. I could sit there and scream rhetoric and fucking get $100 super chats and talk about fucking conspiracy theories. I'm not going to do that, okay, because I have integrity. But I realize there's a cost to that. But at the same time, it's just... when you're consuming content, really, especially right now, because you have the million Chinese fucking propagandists on these things trying to destabilize the US. You've got there are Russian bots. There is some such a thing, but they were overstated, right? You've got fucking these things. They're just trying to destabilize. Fuckery, normal fuckery. You've got people making claims about Venezuela that aren't true. And you've got Venezuela fucking doing their fucking propaganda. And you've got Australia doing propaganda. And Europe doing propaganda. And Brexiteers doing propaganda. And everyone fucking and everyone. That's why I had scrambled eggs. Because everyone wants something from you. If you've got more than one child, you know that feeling. Or you have fucking more than 10 people in a room just asking you for shit. And then you go, fuck off. You rage quit. That's what you need to do. Everyone is asking something of you. I'm not really. I was honest about what I'm asking of you. But yeah, the social medias thrive on radicalization, getting us into echo chambers. Yes, of course. But yeah, that's that, because what it does is it gets more and more targeted marketing in your direction and you buy more shit. And also you end up with a brand loyal customer for life. What we've done in marketing is built brand cults. Right. And also that sort of dangling of the carrot of influencer economy. It's also that it's kind of like a really weird beauty pageant that's happened as a separate layer. I'll probably talk about this separately, but, through influencers, this lottery of influence where, and I've always deliberately just shat on, there's been times when I've sort of, gotten a little bit of influence. I don't fucking like it. I don't want to be famous. I want to be listened to, but I don't want to be famous. So that's why I'm going into research. Let's go into science. That's a good way to get not listened to and not famous. But it's but this sort of the influence is like dangling that carrot. There's a whole Marxist analysis you could do around the influencer economy and how they've turned postmodernism and wokeism into a product that it's a content machine. It's a content factory. I've talked about this before, that makes money and allows the people who are poor to get out of... this was actually a chapter on the book. I'm not sure I'm writing a book anymore. I want to, but I don't know if it's the best format. But one of the things that I've written about as a sort of draft chapter in the book is this idea that I had this. I'm in Perth. And I have clients all over the world. I've had celebrity clients and famous people and big companies, and I'm fucking based in Western Australia. That's what the internet has opened up for us. But what it's actually done on a global scale is give people who wouldn't ordinarily be able to build a brand or market themselves or sell a product, for better or worse, right? Food. I was thinking about doing food blogging or something safe. And, you know, like it's given access and freedom to people that didn't exist before. That said, you also there's a double-edged sword to that, and this is sort of that unintended consequence, which is that thing where there were studies. When was it? I think it was about. Don't quote me. It was about 6 years ago, where they surveyed children who were about 8 or 9, and they 10 years before they were saying that they wanted to be like policeman or doctor or lawyer, and those sorts of things. And 10 years later, they all wanted to be YouTubers and Instagram influencers. They all wanted to be famous on TV. And this, I think this is just reality TV coming. It's just, there's a whole clusterfuck of things. And if you think you've got all the answers, then you've done more and lived more than me, and that's fucking rare. I can't, that's the thing, is like, this is incredibly complex, and I know what I'm talking about. And you hear me rambling about various other things. My crazy board is just, it's fucking, there's so many moving parts to all of this stuff. But a lot of it comes down to, well, yeah, there is that. See what's it, but also, look, she got to marry Alec Baldwin. All right, I can pretend. What can I pretend to be to bone Alec Baldwin? He's my guilty crush. You know how you've got like your open crushes, but Alec Baldwin is my guilty, like clearly Freudian crush. I don't know. He's fucking hot. Anyway, but I prefer the nerdy types. But you know, I like me a bit of Alec Baldwin. But you know, like I've seen it with my own kids. They all just want to be gaming streamers or YouTubers or all of these things. They're hooked into this machine. And I think that this is fucking big tobacco times 1,000. It's just insane. It's just honestly insane. But anyway, I can't remember if hang on, let me quickly look at my notes, because I don't know if I even made my fucking point. Oh yeah, just make sure, here you go. This is what you should do. So when you're seeing stuff, remember what I said. Everything is pretty much branded content now, right? Even this, it's kind of branded content because I've got a business, but I don't know. Yeah, I make no. If you want a cut of my $4 a month, go for it. But you know, in marketing, remember what's in it for them, right? Because the marketers are thinking what's in it for you. You start thinking, okay, what's in it for them in terms of what do they want me to do? What action should I be taking from this piece of content? Now, some of it's propaganda, so it might be persuasive. They might be wanting you to share bullshit. Okay? That's what clickbait is. They want you to just share bullshit and click on it and share it as if it's true. What do they want? Okay? Learn how to read the difference between pseudoscience and science. Okay, learn that. I'm having to go back because I'm doing the grad dip. I'm having to go back to sort of 101 shit that I've already done, and it's a good reminder. Your theory, how to tell critically the difference between something that has a lot of sciencey words in it, gender, to something that's actually tested and robust and peer reviewed and all of that sort of stuff, and has no corporate interests. Also, always assume that American corporate interests are the first thing. Okay? Then assume that everyone else is trying to fuck over America at the moment. Okay? Assume that it's, again, Occam's razor, just assume that it's the American corporates and corporate interests that are fucking with everyone at the moment, right? But just use your critical thinking skills, okay? Try to behave. And I know, again, I see jokes as an exception. This is why I can reconcile being a bit of a cunt and saying, fuck off, don't be a fuckwit, and believe that I'm behaving ethically, because I'm talking the way that I talk, and it's called persuasive communication. But if you look underneath, there is nothing that's ever not in line with my principles when I'm speaking, right? And if I do, then I apologize afterwards. If I realize that I fucked up, then I apologize, right? Or say I'm wrong. But try to behave more in line with principles. Like, we all know when someone's a fuckwit. It's one of those things. Like I said earlier in the stream, fuckwit is like love. It's something that it's intangible and difficult to define, but when you see it, you fucking know it. So can we just agree to not be one of those fuckwits, okay? And can we just try to work more on just calming down and not reacting, and not just, one thing that you can do is just not share things that you don't know that sound true. Don't share it. Just move on from it. Yes, you might get lower engagement. You might not get the dopamine hit. You might not get those fucking, sexy hormones that we're all craving in a time of mass trauma, but it's going to be worse. So think about the impact of what you're sharing, okay? Now, I share things. I every so often I'll retweet something knee-jerk and then undo that. I'm trying to be better. I'm not perfect. I'm still just my loud, shouty, fuckery self. And I'm mostly just trying to be a smart ass and funny. And also the way that I speak gets cut through where academic, boring, dry stuff doesn't. So it's actually quite strategic the way that I don't speak like this in a corporate setting. In a corporate setting, I speak like this, like a normal person. I don't swear and go off, and I'm not as animated. I am when I'm presenting like a workshop or something. I'm a bit more like animated. But this is it is a performance, people. If you think if you're my friend and only know me mostly from online, you'll know that this is not me in real life. In real life, I'm a much nicer and considerate person. Okay, you have to have some sort of voice and persona. But can we try to come together and start thinking about solutions from every angle? So look at different angles. Jump on Wikipedia and try to find the lens, especially a good one that you might not agree with, that might challenge you, or a discipline. So if you're in your discipline and your bubble, so if mine is politics and user experience and digital, right now I'm doing the formal psych training. I've done, obviously, user experience overlaps with psych theory and politics and philosophy. They all overlap, right? But I'm actually going into psychology, learning the full psychology discipline lens on things I already knew about from this angle. I love doing that. That happened when I learned about Aristotle from a chemistry, science point of view, because I'd only learned about Aristotle from political philosophy and politics and psychology. I didn't learn about Aristotle and the atom, for example. And you go, wow, I've added to my perspective. I don't know. I love that. It makes you more well-rounded if you just seek out different fucking interesting stuff. I could do that. I'm just going to start sharing things that I find really interesting from different angles. And maybe that's part of my role here, is to go, here's this thought from this point of view. Because you may have seen, I brought up fucking 5 different, I straddle 8 disciplines with every stream. Talking about securitization, international relations theory, policy, user experience design, coding, design, what's the other thing? Politics, philosophy, psychology. And I read a lot of different things. And also, I think that if you think something is 100% true and you are 100% right, that should be a sign that you need to go and fucking read the opposite thing. Because I think that when you read more of the opposite thing, you realize that there's just nobody has all the answers. Okay? To quote my grandmother, Jesus is perfect, you're not. And I don't believe in that shit, but I'm just saying it's humbling. Okay. Anyway, I think it's a good idea to just challenge yourself all the time, because I think it's tempting. And this is, rather than and again, I'm not saying don't watch reality TV. Reality TV is fucking funny. I like the Kardashians, and I like, Farmer Cunt Wants a Wife. I like those ones, right? But yeah, address the steel man arguments, not the straw man ones. Exactly. Get back to basics. Like knowing what a steel man argument is versus a straw man. Knowing what an ad hominem attack is, what a genetic fallacy is. Also, like I said, what pseudoscience is. You're arguing about clownfish. You've already lost. Okay, it's not science. Like just elevate the conversation. And when I say elevate the conversation, it doesn't mean you can't have fucking jokes or fun. It means come from that place. Again, there's no such thing as the right framework. Everything is just different ideas. If there's one thing I'm learning, again, because I've been forced to go back to sort of stuff that I studied 20 years ago and just integrated and didn't really revisit. But, the clashes of schools of thought. And that's the exciting part about being human, is being open to new ideas. Like, I don't know how people navigate this world with a fixed mindset. I'm autistic as fuck, but the whole world's fucking autistic to me. Because I'm just curious. I just love, I'll just go down a fucking Wikipedia rabbit hole. I'm just that kind of person. But do that. Just be curious. Be more curious, but not fucking gullible. Curious, not gullible. Anyway. So, I don't know but yeah, look. I think we just need to get our heads straight. I was going to do some more segments, but I think this might just be a standalone fucking stream. Because I failed at the segments anyway, and I'm fucking tired, and I got work to do, and fucking I'm hungry, and I've given up carbs again, so I'm fucking cranky. Actually, you know how I ranted about the pool the other day, the pool leaves? We had a blow up inflatable donut, those floaty things for the pool. And when we had that wind, my son observed that the donut had disappeared. And so there's a missing blow-up donut somewhere in the neighborhood. But for me, because I've given up carbs, that thing when you do keto, if you've done the low-carb thing, you know what I'm talking about. That first few days where you just kill for a donut. And I was laughing at the idea, because it was New Year's Day, that there's these poor people who've just given up carbs, and they're on day 2 of carb withdrawal, and they see a fucking flying donut into their backyard, and it's just that idea that it's like, am I hallucinating? Oh, that was quite funny. It's how my brain works. But anyway, so let's have a look at the comments. What did I mean? So Shannon said that she loves Age of Empires. Taught you the word trebuchet. Lucky Trump supporters didn't have one of those. Well, the thing is, they do. They're just hiding out in those communities, polishing their fucking guns. And it's inevitable. And it just takes the fucking person. Has no one seen Joker? This is how it happens. And here we go. Here's a solution that I think we need to start doing, and I need to get better at as well, which is when someone's being a fuckwit, because fuckwit can be a fucking thing that you can call someone because they're being a fuckwit. We're all a fuckwit sometimes. I'm a fuckwit most of the time. Okay? When you're behaving like a fuckwit, I don't know. It's fun to make fun of fuckwits, though. This is my complex. See, it's always in conflict between what's funny and what's right. Let's just say that hypothetically you reach a fuckwit that is operating in bad faith. Then you can call them a fuckwit. But when you look at the sort of systemic stuff, which is that these are men, largely men, but also women and, the angry young men. Let's use that archetype, a stereotype, for working class white men are angry and afraid and feel like their government is at war with them. They felt that Trump was their hero and he was going to save them. He fucking didn't. He didn't give a fuck, right? they legitimately think that the Democrats ran a coup. They have no financial support. They have no jobs. There's a pandemic. They're being forced to wear a mask. You look at it through the lens of somebody who's got scrambled eggs for brains. Yes. They're wrong-headed. Yes. But there's pain there, and you see the human there. That is somebody who doesn't need prison, doesn't need further fuel on their paranoia, and they don't need, like in mental health, you don't escalate the situation, right? You give them fucking Valium, and then you calm them down, and then you give them a cup of tea, and you send the social worker in, and you fucking work to try and help them. And we know that America doesn't give a fuck about its people, but I'd like to see that tech companies put that model, more of that approach in place than just sort of banning people. And I think that they do. Their intentions are good in terms of the user experience for most people. Again, there's outliers. And remember, machine learning is young, right? A lot of machine learning can't be ignored here. It's immature. Jack's been on the record saying that the machine learning that we need to moderate like at this scale is about, still 5 years away, okay? We're seeing this sort of weird thing. It's just a bunch of things. Like I said, we're in a predicament, right? And but what I'd like to see is more emphasis on root causes, which we all know America is a big fan of those, addressing the root cause of things rather than just monetizing it and turning it into a new fucking product. This is how you get here. You turn it into a fucking marketing opportunity. There's more than money. Fucking cult of the United States of America. Jesus fucking Christ. But also there's the system. There's the systems, right? There's the capitalism, fucking radicalism, fascism, ideology, all of this political stuff. But underneath all of that, there's individual people who are fucking scared, poor, neglected, angry, abused. I would say that the relationship that the Democrats have with Trump supporters is just pathological and abusive. It's psychopathic, the contempt that a lot of these people show towards the working, like their own citizens. I cannot believe that anybody who was capable of such lack of empathy towards their own people would be considered capable of leading. It's astonishing. Because I generally tend to believe that people are generally good, but when you try to understand them, they might be wrong-headed, but they usually are motivated by good forces. Even QAnon, they're motivated by, they think they're saving the fucking world, right? They're wrong. They're wrong-headed. They've probably got some things right, some things wrong, like everybody. But, it's not far. It's not a leap right now to think that with the first 100 days, QAnon's declared a terrorist group, and anyone who refuses to wear a mask or who goes outside or arcs up or protests is declared a member of QAnon based on some arbitrary fucking thing where they follow someone who happens to be linked to QAnon as a terrorist group. This is not an implausible fucking situation, and that's the thing that's scary, right? Which is that then they can declare them a terrorist group, which means that there's no rule of law, you don't get your day in court, you don't have anything. The fact that is not an implausible thought is the most terrifying part of all of this. So when the antitrust cases come up, I hope that this is shown as evidence that they need to be broken up and that they should not be fucking. Because again, Parler, yes, I hope they'll be back up, and I hope that it's just a policy thing. But at the same time, I find it deeply concerning the behaviour that they've. It's one thing to take a site down; it's another to strip them of all of their resources and ability to do their business. That's fucking mafia bullshit, man. It's crazy. But yeah, so MacArthur Sparks said, sorry, I'll go to Shannon. I heard the term armed protesters today. What is expected next from the Trump mob? Boggles the mind that it's acceptable. All those itchy trigger fingers. Yeah, but it's not just the Trump supporters either. It's the people that are sitting there taunting them and calling them just willfully misunderstanding them and their pain, and willfully refusing to understand that this is 50 years in the making. And just the contempt for the working class that the American elites have shown for the last 50 years. This is neoliberalism coming to roost. There's class analysis here lacking. And I think that anybody who's sitting around sort of stereotyping, lumping them in, yes, again, it's fun to do. I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying that we need to get away from that because that's how we got here. Them and us, right? That's someone's dad, that's someone's mum, that's someone's grandpa. We've all got that fucking racist uncle who, fucking goes off on fucking Facebook and like says all this racist shit, is pro-gun and all that stuff, scrambled eggs for brains, but we love them anyway and we wouldn't want to see them hurt. And we definitely wouldn't want to see them unfairly locked up without trial, right? And that's where I think we really, again, I'm trying to be charitable when it comes to the Democrat, the US government, big tech. Their track record has not been stellar. They have very difficult problems. They have emerging and urgent problems. The fact that they won't even fucking give their own people health care. It's like, well, are you fucking surprised? Nah, right? They're angry. Right? They've been abandoned by their fucking representatives, and their representatives are squabbling like children over fucking bullshit, woke shit, and the media's gaslighting them. They're fucked, and nobody's dealing with the actual root cause here. But so anyway, sorry again. I feel like I picked on you, Shannon. I haven't. You just seem to you just say the right things that get me going. So if you don't mind me fucking getting, yeah, well, yes, that's the devil makes work for idle hands. Exactly. And I think but it's not even idle hands. I think when you understand how victims of abuse, psychopaths, if you look at like a lot of the studies around psychopaths and the vast majority of psychopaths, there's a school of thought that psychopaths are not really born, that they're made, and that usually it can be traced back to heinous abuse. Why are we surprised when people are behaving like this, when they're being abused by their government in the most heinous way? Fucking starved to death. No stable employment, no stability, right? Yes, and selling them the bullshit that they're the richest nation on earth. Yeah, they are for some, but for a good third of them who are under the poverty line and don't have health care and all those things, right? And don't have stable employment. And I think it's something like 50% of Americans can't, again, don't quote me on the stats, I'm making it up on the fly, but a large portion of their population, tens and tens of millions of people can't afford a $400 emergency, right? And you'd think that doesn't have a fucking knock-on effect of you thinking that your government doesn't give a fuck about you? And seeing rich people fucking being able to run roughshod and abuse and insult, like seeing Bette Midler, who's richer than fucking everyone, harassing the working class. The optics of that. Again, a little bit of empathy wouldn't fucking hurt, would it? But optics, seeing how your message is received, I think is very important. I made a joke about pronouns recently on a community forum and I got pulled up on it, and I think that it was right to do that. That's the thing, because it made me reflect. And that's what I think a lot of Twitter and Facebook are doing. We're doing sort of with all those little pattern interrupts and those little bits of friction, is trying to make you just pause for a minute and think before you say things that you might regret or might have unintended consequences. That's a good thing. But what we need to do is also just fucking stop demonizing people and generalizing. And yes, I know, again, I call people fuckwits. Stay mad. It's a joke. But, at the end of the day, again, these are just thoughts. So we're always trying to be better, and we're trying to put better energy out in the world, and sometimes making people laugh by calling someone a fuckwit is funny. There's a method to my madness, is what I'm saying. I think I'm fading. But MacArthur Spark said, I think many men have lost sense of purpose, as many functions they were valued for historically in society have been subsumed by automation, and increased leisure has fostered tendencies to misbehave. Oh, for sure. I honestly, raising boys is the hardest thing I can do. I'm deeply worried about my son's future. Right, because internet gaming disorder is a emerging thing as well. If you're aware of that, I would like to talk about that a bit more. I think that what we need to do is not assume that our enemy is dumb. And yes, some of them are, a lot of them are. But I just like to, again, it just becomes about conduct rather than, it's about conduct, not about the person. It's about, again, it's probably just more, I tend to judge people on the way they conduct themselves, and I can read their intentions. And that's the thing, is the lack of body language with a lot of this stuff means that you can misread people's good faith intentions, especially tone. Like me as a smart ass joker, I get misunderstood so many fucking times. Do you know how many times I get some angry rad femme pissed off because I made a dick joke or something? It's like, why are you not 100% serious about this thing all the time? Because I'm not fucking serious. It's my pressure valve. It's how I cope with all this stress. Laugh at it all. Act bewildered, but anyway. I'm going to go. I think that's good. I'm fucking tired. I don't know if this was of value to anybody, but I'm going to go. I love you. Please stay well. Please think critically. And just keep remembering what's in it for who what do they want you to do if you're what's the fucking call to action on this thing that I'm being given? And it could be micro, it could be big. It could be just spreading fucking propaganda. Don't. Learn how to spot propaganda. Actually, you might not want to watch Manufacturing Consent or read the book because it's pretty dry, but just read the Wikipedia page for Chomsky's propaganda model. Do thought experiments. Apply different models to things to see if you can figure out what's happening in the world. That's what I like doing. I like doing that. I like applying models to things and seeing if I can come out with some fucking different solutions. That's why I'm doing psych, because it's just a new way of looking at it that I realize there's just a big gap. And I think it's actually the biggest gap for me in terms of getting my research and solutions out there. Anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. If you want to, you can join my join my Discord. It's tayalu.xyz. That's just a domain that redirects. You may get a security thing, but it's fine. It's just a redirection to the ugly Discord link. Or you can go to my website and if you want to give money, even though everyone's povo, if you want to get money, if you were going to give it to fucking Tim Pool, who's banking it, and Jimmy Dore, who's raking it, and all the others who are raking it in, and give it to me, that would be cool. I'm not saying I'm equal to them. I'm just saying I'm poorer than them. Welcome to my hobo channel. No, I'm kidding. Thankfully, I have work to do and paid work to do, so I'm going to go. I love you. Thank you for your precious life seconds. Stay well, and I will see you on either Friday or see you next Tuesday. Bye.